Let's say good morning to Jon Morosi, leading the league in information, because there is some newsworthiness to this Tuesday morning. JP, this is fascinating to me. A trade was consummated yesterday between the White Sox and the Rangers. Lance Lynn goes to Chicago in exchange for pitching prospect Dane Dunning, who had a pretty good year at the big league level last year. And there are people on very polarized ends of this as to who got the better end of the trade. Give us your thoughts.
Well, good morning. The winter meetings are virtual, but the news is real, my friends. It was, of course, night one of the virtual winter meetings. We were all at the virtual establishment there with a beverage. And here comes the news right around midnight Eastern time, scurrying back to the set. Here's the update. Lance Lynn is now a member of the Chicago White Sox. Here's what I think about this. If you are going to hire Tony La Russa and announce in the baseball world that you are going to go to win the World Series this year, this coming year, or next year, this move is a logical through line from that La Russa hire of going all in right now. Dane Dunning is, as you see it there, a very good prospect. He, of course, someone that was originally drafted by the Nationals, showed some promise this past season. But Lance Lynn has been one of the more reliable pitchers in the game the last several years. In fact, you go and look, since 2017, among all pitchers with at least 600 innings pitched, Lance Lynn ranks 9th in the majors in adjusted ERA. Trevor Bauer, who is everybody's top pick as a free agent this year, ranks just 2 spots ahead of him on that list in adjusted ERA since 2017. So again, you're getting one of the best pitchers out there. There was some noise, some talk during the course of the season. Would Lance Lynn be moved at the deadline? Candidly, from the Rangers' perspective, worked out pretty well because Dane Dunning is probably about as good of a prospect as they could have hoped to have gotten at the trade deadline in August. So I think you have to really credit pitcher. John Daniels for waiting.
Indeed.
Right, star. And by the way, and two other quick notes here. Number one, you have to realize this is Chris Young's first move as the GM of the Rangers. He was just announced, formally introduced via a virtual press conference yesterday. All of a sudden, boom, less than 24 hours later, the move is made. So pretty exciting there for Chris Young, his first move there as a GM with the Rangers. And one of my favorite parts of the story here, 9 years later, if we have the footage from that night, we actually get Tony La Russa intending to call on Lance Lynn. This was the famous bullpen phone imbroglio from the 2011 World Series where he thought it was Jason Mott coming in. You recall it was actually Lance Lynn. Little confusion there. A young Lance Lynn with La Russa, of course, Tony's final World Series as the Cardinals manager. Who was he calling on? Was it Mott? Was it Lynn? That, my friends, was a 2-day story across 2 different press conferences in 2 different cities. First Arlington, then the off day in St. Louis. I remember it so well. That was 9 years ago. And finally, yes, back to Arlington, Tony did finally intend to call upon Lance Lynn last night.
Interesting. Excellent stuff, that's awesome. For sure. You know, I was going to ask you about the Chris Young component here. And what do you think about that? I mean, this deal was done before.
It was done before.
Yeah, Chris probably got there and said, oh, really? We're going to get Lance Lynn? Cool.
Well, the beauty of it is
he's still unpacking his suitcase.
If it works out, he gets all the great credit. If it doesn't, he goes, it was done before I got here.
Yeah. All right, so
real quick, the last point on that I was going to say, and Matt will love this, but if you look at Tony La Russa, you know he loves starting pitching. I mean, you think about Stu, Welch, Moore, Davis, those type of things. So Tony's going to build this on pillars that he knows how to win. So this is a perfect fit. And it's somebody that he knows.
It's a win-now trade, man. As JP said, you bring in Tony La Russa, you spend the kind of money that they've spent the last 2 off seasons, you can't stop and think maybe we have enough. We talk about the same thing with the Phillies. They've got to back up more trucks now. You're already in. You're pot committed, to borrow the poker term, with Bryce Harper. Let me pivot to the next deal, JP, because this one, as we mentioned, there are varying degrees of satisfaction among the fan bases. A lot of White Sox fans think, man, we had 5 years of control on Dane Dunning, and we traded him for a guy who's closer to the end than the beginning, even though Lance Lynn is good and an all-star. So there's different opinions on this one. I can't think of a different opinion if you're an Angels fan and your team just acquired Raisel Iglesias from the Cincinnati Reds for a relatively low return package. No offense. This is a big acquisition for the Los Angeles Angels.
It is, and a busy start to Perry Manassian's tenure there as the GM of the Angels, getting Jose Iglesias in the first deal, and now Raisel Iglesias in the second one. This is someone who has pitched in the past at an all-star level. Well said, Harold. And we'll have to see about that. But I think overall, with Iglesias, this is a team in the Angels. They had to upgrade their late-inning bullpen. They have now done that. To me, the big question, you see there, his ability to go multi-innings. The big question now for the Angels, can they address the rotation? Because that, to me, that they had pursued Garrett Cole, they had pursued Steven Strasburg last winter, couldn't get it done. And they went out and signed Rendon instead. To me, the need for them to get a starting pitcher is still as great as it was when we were all in San Diego for last year's winter meetings. They really have not addressed that issue. And in that division, you saw two very high-level clubs this year in Oakland and Houston. Houston, of course, getting to within one game of the World Series. They're probably going to take a bit of a step back, to be honest, without George Springer if George signs elsewhere, and Brantley as well. So there's an opportunity there. This is a good first step on the pitching side for Perry Manassian, but it can't be the last one because you need some real stability on a budget to join in the likes of a Heaney and a Griffin Canning there in the rotation, Dylan Bundy. There are some building blocks there, but they need at least, in my view, one more high-quality starting pitcher to truly contend right now in the American League West.
So let me throw a thought at you real quick, JP. Clearly they need starting pitching, but they don't necessarily have the assets to go get it. Could they flip Iglesias in a starting pitching move?
I would doubt that, Harold, because one reason why I would doubt it is that there is so much relief pitching out there right now that while this was a good trade, and I think it's reflective of the fact that, to your point earlier, Matty, in terms of what the Angels gave up to get Iglesias, there are so many good relievers out there right now in free agency that I think that the trade value of any given one relief pitcher, even a closer with multiple inning capacity like Iglesias, is not especially high. Archie Bradley is out there after having been non-tendered. Blake Trinan, who obviously pitched some key innings for the Dodgers, is out there and available. And one name that no one seems to be talking about, Alex Colomé, who had a sub-2 ERA with the White Sox. He's a free agent. And people seem to forget about how great he's been. So there's a lot of different relief pitching out there where I think this was a fair price for the Angels to pay. But I'd be surprised, Harold, to see the Angels flipping Iglesias right now.
All right, Raisel Iglesias is an Angel. Lance Lynn is a member of the Chicago White Sox. And J.P. Morosi with us on a Tuesday edition of Hot Stove.